Feeling good, feeling great. Feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome into another edition of Timeline T. I am your host, D Sam D, aka Sanders May Jr. Oh, it's a Monday. We had to get things right. Make sure things were on point for today. There's a lot to get into. A lot of NBA, maybe a little sprinkle of NFL if we have time, but the most pertinent thing going on today is NBA, the National Basketball Association. Goji Berry tea. If you know, you know. I had to push back the stream a few minutes because I wanted to make sure I get all the mellow stuff that I could. My man, Carmelo Anthony is out of here, finally retiring. A blackballed superstar he was. Joe Mazzulla. One and done? We'll talk about it. Also, LeBron James. Sayonara. I'm just saying, Lake Show certainly had their best chance. They have hung tight with the Nuggets 3 games in a row, yet they have lost 3 games in a row. We'll see how it is when we get there. Jason Tatum, that Kobe cosplay is cute. Might have to learn to get your own identity, son. There's a lot going on. I see Alexandra in the chat. Hello, Alexandra. She's pulling up. Scrub Zero in the house. I see you. Celtics are done. Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap, nigga, man. Mazzulla might be out of here. One and done. He's a 19-year-old. One and done. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Don't want to waste too more of your time. All your man's Joe Mazzulla. Man. You see it there. Your man's win horse. There is a wave of anger from New England and a rising expectation elsewhere. Joe Mazzulla will pay the price for this 0-3 hole the Celtics find themselves in. That's courtesy of Brian Windhurst of the 4-Letter Network. Joe, you finally learned to take some timeouts, but you wait until game 3 when you're getting blown out to finally take some timeouts. Problematic as hell. Ab is in here. What's good, Ab? Man, Joe Mazzulla one and done. Like he's Bronny. One and done like he's Bryce. One and done like he's, you know, any top-notch prospect. Mazzulla, 34-year-old rookie head coach, just looks more shakier and shaker in the light. But do not let this thing disguise you from the fact that your mans, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, last night, 26 points combined. 12 of 35 combined. 1 for 14 from 3 and 6 turnovers between the two of them. So do not let the Joe Mazzulla stuff fool you into thinking that it's truly just on Joe Mazzulla. Tatum and Brown. Now, Brown, we've talked about Brown maybe looking elsewhere, maybe trying to get himself to the A to play for the Hawks since he's from Atlanta. Jason Tatum, who's been out here, you know, working out with Kevin Durant, channeling his Mamba mentality, but continuously shows us time and time again that maybe he's not of that caliber. At what point is this a referendum on not only Jaylen Brown, but Jason Tatum? Jason Tatum seemed to take the step that a lot of us have been waiting for him to do, putting that 50-piece up against the Sixers in Game 7. Now it just comes back to, oh, that was just the Sixers being the Sixers. That's all that was. That was just the Sixers being the Sixers. It was nothing special or dynamic or, you know, meaningful about it. That was just a team with the Beard and Joel Embiid choking it away by a Doc Rivers-led team. No issues whatsoever. Doesn't mean anything now. That 50-piece seems so long ago. That was Mother's Day. Mother's Day, Tatum was out here cooking up a 50-piece, and just about a week later, we're now saying, should we blow it up Should we blow it up in Boston? It was all good just a week ago. It was all good just a week ago. So, Alexandra, Lakers and Celtics are done. It is Denver and Miami in the final. I mean, yeah, it would take a catastrophic collapse by either Denver or Miami to not make that happen. Scrub Zero, shout out to the two Scottie Pippens. I mean, you know, I was willing to ride on Jaylen Brown not being a Scottie Pippen. But I think, you know, right now with the way Tatum is out here chucking up shots, thinking he Kobe, and Jaylen Brown sometimes acquiescing to allowing Jason Tatum to keep putting up shots like he's Kobe, there now is some real valid merit to what Scrub Zero's been pushing out here. There's some real merit to it. You know, as someone that's an 80s baby, I saw the Scottie Pippen experience in real time. And yeah, bruh, Jaylen Brown might not have the migraines. Jaylen Brown might not have the Detroit Pistons in his head calling him frail, calling him weak, calling him soft. But there's something going on where Jaylen Brown, as much as he can talk a good game, as much as he can do things that are for the cause and for the culture that makes us think he is bigger than what his persona and his game is, when the bright lights turn on, something else doesn't turn on. I'm not sure what it is, but it's hella problematic for Jaylen Brown to be out here in these streets combining for 12 of 35, 1 for 14 from 3, 26 points, and 6 turnovers in a game they absolutely had to have. And let's go ahead and get to the box score. And I know there's some people that, you know, there's a faction of NBA fans that think they can tell you how a game went. And let me just not even say NBA fans. There's a lot of television, radio, and digital streaming hosts who think they can tell you how a game went just off the box score. What I try to do with this stream is to look inside the box score to find out the real information. And while we can go ahead and just look at this and say, all right, Jason Tatum 6 of 18, Jaylen Brown 6 of 17, that's not that bad, Sam. Well, like, I mean, Jason Tatum got up 18 shots. Jaylen Brown got up 17 shots. What's the problem? Well, the problem is Jaylen Brown was 0 for 7 from 3. That's clear. And Tatum was 1 for 7. So that's clearly a problem, right? But here's where it gets funky. And let me get my let me come off the screen. Make sure I got my little mouse thing that can, where is it? That can magnify, a little magnifying glass thing. Where is it? Okay, there it is. Cool. So, in case y'all might not be able to see it, Jason Tatum, when he was on the floor, was a minus 23. Jason Tatum, Kobe cosplay and all, minus 23 when he was on the floor. And your man's Jaylen Brown, minus 25. So minus 48 when you have Tatum and Brown on the floor. And let's not forget, you see Marcus Smart sandwiched in there as well, up there with a 23. Let me see. I don't think I can see that. So let me move that window over. Okay, there we go. Minus 23. That's Tatum. Minus 25 is Brown. And sandwiched between them, pause, is your man's Marcus Smart. So that's where we're at with the Celtics, man. There's only so long fake thugs can pretend, right? There's only so long fake thugs can pretend. So while we can just go off the box score and just scroll through here, you know me, I like to go deeper than just that. To me, it's deeper than rap. Let's go to the thing I like most, the shot chart. What can we learn from the shot chart from the Boston Celtics and how they played in Game 3 where they got ran out the gym down there in Miami? So let me just zoom out just a bit so I don't have to keep moving the window around so much. There we go. All right. So let's start with your man's Tatum. Because Tatum think he Kobe, right? We can all agree. Tatum think he Kobe. And here's the problem with Tatum. We know he's going to give us these, right? We know he's going to give us these. He's going to give us these shots, right? So we know, by and large, since he think he Kobe, he's going to continuously give us these Kobe long-range shots, right? Here's the real problem. What's up with all these bunnies, bruh? What's up with all these missed bunnies? Why are you missing all these bunnies? What's the problem here? These we know we're going to get, even though I think it's a problem that he gets to take these, because to me, he hasn't been that reliable over the long haul in terms of consistency to be the guy that just continuously night in, night out put these up. We saw it a little bit in the finals against the Dubs last year. We've seen it throughout his tenure, whether it was, you know, your man's Joe Mazzulla, whether it was Ime Udoka, or whether it was, let me see if I have the right button up here, you know, whether it was the boy genius who was, you know, handed the job by Danny Ainge. So Brad Stevens, a.k.a. the boy genius, which was gifted to us via the Skemadum Dea and Danny Ainge, there is, you know, a problem with Tatum in his game. As great as he can look, he can do his best Kobe impression, but unfortunately that Mamba mentality cannot be copied. And this the flow of the offense. There is none. And that goes back to my main point about these Celtics, and you're starting to see blue check boys and girls start to regurgitate it as, oh, maybe the Celtics need a point guard. You don't say. It's something I've been screaming about the entire time. Marcus Smart is not a point guard. And if you keep forcing someone who is not a point guard to be a point guard, that's going to come to rue in the end. And while, again, is Marcus Smart not being a real point guard the problem why the Celtics are about to get swept? No. However, when you're talking about the compound issue, is Tatum and Brown don't have it within them to be able to know when to take over games, not in a playoff series. They know how to do it in the regular season. They know how to do it in February. They know how to do it in November. They know how to do it when it doesn't really matter per se. But when it comes down to, can they know when to take over? Outside of Mother's Day, when Tatum just went crazy, when have we seen it? From either one of them. They both have played well at times, but when have they consistently in a series taken over? If this is supposed to be the 1-2 punch that we're supposed to be hearing about, if this is supposed to be the 1-2 punch that's going to lead the Celtics into the next evolution of their historic franchise, don't they need to win a chip? There's a reason why Garnett and Perk and, you know, Big Baby and, you know, KG and all of them get to run around and keep screaming about that one chip. It's because that's been the only chip since the 80s. These two were supposed to be the ones to usher in a new era of Celtic lore. This was supposed to be a new generation of Celtics that was supposed to extend the look of this franchise into the millennium. And it's looking like Joe Mazzulla is going to be the scapegoat. And while he certainly has played his part, not taking timeouts, lacking the vigor needed to motivate a team, Mans has finally admitted he lost the locker room. Here's a question. Did Joe Mazzulla ever have that locker room in the first place? What proof do we have that he had that locker room? Has his team at all, at any point during the season, look like they bought in to Joe Mazzulla? Or did this look like a team that has 7-8 lottery picks on it and just decides to turn it up and turn the talent on and out-talent teams at various points throughout the season? Joe Mazzulla is 34 years old. Joe Mazzulla was handpicked to take over this roster by, you know, the boy genius, Brad Stevens. How come he doesn't take a hit here? Yes, Ime and all the stuff that came with that, it didn't come out of nowhere, pause, to us, but it certainly didn't come out of nowhere to them because they knew about it internally. But in terms of it blowing up and become the story that it came to be was a surprise. But the only thing you do is just hand the keys to his mans who is sitting next to him on the bench? That's all you're going to do? Again, the boy genius who mysteriously went upstairs after failing to get to the Celtics to not one NBA Finals. With all the pomp and circumstance coming from Butler, being handed 8 to 9 lottery picks by the Danny Ainge. After failing to get to one NBA Finals, he mysteriously gets kicked upstairs to a front office position. Ime gets the job. Ime goes out there and does the one thing that the boy genius Brad Stevens couldn't do, which was get to an NBA Finals with the same roster. Ime has his issues. He's out of there. You just gonna pass it on down? Puff, puff, pass to the next man sitting next to him on the bench? With no track record, with no proven acumen. And this is no shade to Joe Mazzulla. But Mans has looked over his head throughout this season. This isn't new. This lack of having control over the team is not new. This existed in December. This existed in February. Now it's being put out for the world to see right now in the conference finals. You can see semblance of it against the Sixers. It shouldn't have took the Celtics 7 games to get the Sixers up out of here. With a hobbled Joel Embiid, with that roster, it took him until game 5 to realize, I got Time Lord and he's healthy. Joe Mazzulla, while he's not the blame, he's going to pay the price. I think the words there are accurate from your man's Brian Windhurst. Joe Mazzulla will pay the price. Because who else can it be? Brad Stevens ain't going to get fired. He's out there replacing, so he's not going to get fired. It's very rare that front office guys get fired. It's easy to fire a coach. We've seen how many coaches get fired since the end of the regular season and even throughout the playoffs. But how many GMs have we seen get fired? So Brad Stevens, who came in with all this fanfare of he's going to bring that Butler shit to Boston, Gordon Hayward and all that, IT, Kyrie and all that. And he had the linchpins of Tatum and Brown. You give this guy, who is thought to be a genius, but to me, I labeled him a boy genius, because to me, that Butler shit, he had pros. Hey, Gordon Hayward and Sheldon Mack. If you can't get to March Madness with 2 NBA pros, then you should not be labeled a genius at any level. If you can't get 2 NBA pros, one of them who is an NBA All-Star, you can't get them to March Madness, you can't get them to make a deep run in the tournament. So that Butler shit looks more shaky in the light when you re-examine it. But in real time, we were giving him all this assumed acumen. He looked the part. He said the part. He moved the part. So he goes to the Celtics. He has all these lottery picks up and down the roster. And year after year, it's conference finals, conference finals, conference finals, second round, first round, conference finals. And nobody says, hey, maybe the boy genius ain't really who y'all said he was. Oh, it's got to be Tatum and Brown fault. Okay, sure. We'll let that rock. But magically, mysteriously, he just, poof, goes upstairs and has literally never been seen. He's not there for press conferences. He doesn't come down and he's not there. So now they put Ime out there. Now we got Mazzulla out there. Who's it going to be next? Which Bates brother is going to be asked to come be the Celtic coach and then get ran out of there? While the boy genius gets to sit up there and be exempt from the smoke. I'll hit the chat. No mental toughness. Okay. So you're saying Tatum and Brown, no mental toughness. Okay. That's from Ab. Alexander, the box score isn't everything. Yep, it isn't everything. But I would tell you, Alexander, as someone that's worked in various radio platforms, terrestrial radio and satellite, to streaming platforms, you wouldn't believe how many people, before they start a show, just look at a box score for maybe 2-3 minutes and then give you hours of content based off those 2 to 3 minutes of looking at a box score. I won't say any names yet, but they out there. And it's pretty easy to tell if you really watch the same game that they're talking about. Then you know, oh, he's just box score reading. That's all. Anywho, Scrub Zero. No one could stop the bleeding for Boston. They compounded a lot of those issues all night, especially in the third quarter. Third quarters have been horrible for them. What is the issue with Mazzulla in these third quarters? What is he not telling to this team? And that's the thing about losing the locker room, because he doesn't invigorate the team. There's no motivation. Like, you know, he was out here slamming clipboards. You know, what was that after game 2, slamming clipboards, and it still did nothing. That's the best he could do. But again, he's 34 years old. It's his first time ever doing this. What do you expect? This ain't Ted Lasso. This ain't no fairy tale shit. This ain't Apple TV. Like, what do you expect a rookie head coach who is clearly in over his head to do? No matter how much talent, like, no, there's always a notion of, well, if you give me that roster, I do this. No, the hell you wouldn't. Because that's essentially Joe Mazzulla. No, you wouldn't, couch guy that's sitting there critiquing everything. Let's pull you off the couch and throw you in there like Joe Mazzulla. You'll be doing the same shit. You will be frantic like, should I call a timeout? Like, they go on a 2-0 run. Timeout. Oh, now you're premature with the timeout. Like, it's not as easy as these professionals make it seem. Now, while there's times you could feel like, oh, I could do that job. There's certainly times I feel like, oh, I could do that. But then there's other things where like, ooh, no, that took some real skills. That took some real skills and real temperament to know what to do to be able to pull that off. But Joe Mazzulla is giving all the couch potatoes a bad name because he's going out here and just Tatum and Brown, figure it out. You're Jason Tatum, you're Jaylen Brown. You're Marcus Smart, you're Al Horford, you're Time Lord. You guys have enough talent amongst the 6-7 of you to figure this out. I don't really need to do that much. I'm just going to sub in, sub out, write some stuff on the whiteboard in the locker room, and that's it. He is the antithesis of what we assume it is and what it takes to be a head coach. Because he has never had this locker room. He has never been able to galvanize his team. And now the team is going out here and playing flat in a must-win. And like this has been talked about, it was said a lot on the TNT broadcast, and it's been repeated, throughout today, is they came out and played last night like they were already down 3-0. They came out last night in a must-win game, and they played like a team that was down 3-0, heading to the crib. It's time. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. And that goes to the head coach. But that also goes to the 2 best players on the team. And they cannot be exempt. And Jaylen Brown, if you want out, you're going to be out. There's no reason to bring Jaylen Brown back. There's no reason to bring Jaylen Brown back after this. And I'm not even saying it's Jaylen Brown's fault. It's just the pros of bringing Jaylen Brown back are too far in between. I can't name too many pros of bringing Jaylen Brown back. The window has closed. The window has absolutely positively closed on the Tatum and Brown era. I've seen enough. There's no reason to bring it back. Outside of, I thought maybe bringing in Malcolm Brogdon, if he would have started at some point. Hello, Joe Mazzulla. You have a point guard. I've been begging you to play a point guard. You actually have a point guard. His name is Malcolm Brogdon. Now, last night, he looked like shit. But in regards to actually someone who can facilitate and play that position and knows how to read and get guys in rhythm, that's Malcolm Brogdon. It's not Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart puts up numbers. He gives you assists, but it's default assist. It's not actually let me break the defense down and then drop it off. Let me call out the right play and that play works and I get the assist to get that play going. It's not that. If you've played point guard, You know what it is when you see another point guard who is a facilitator. Marcus Smart has never been that. He is not a facilitator. They can't close, bottom line. Yeah, they definitely cannot close. I see Alex and her Denver Nuggets takes. I will get back to those. Script Zero, Brad Stevens got to go. I mean, look, bro, I'm telling you, it's going to become a thing where at some point, just like with the Sixers, with Joel Embiid, it's like, well, who else do we got left to blame? Because, Ben Simmons is gone. James Harden looks to be gone. Doc Rivers is gone. Colangelo is gone. Hinkie is gone. Ben Simmons, Robert Covington, Jahlil Okafor, Nerlens Noel, Markelle Fultz, they're all gone. There's no one left to blame in Philly but Joel Embiid. It's going to become that in Boston. Ime is gone. Mazzulla most likely will be gone. Kyrie is gone. It's looking like Jaylen Brown could be gone. IT3 is gone. Gordon Hayward, gone. Terry Rozier, gone. Who's going to be left? Tatum and the boy genius? At some point, it's like, well, what exactly is the boy genius doing? Because remember, the reason why, the scammer them there, Danny Ainge, the reason why it was such a problem when he was there was he kept stockpiling all these picks. If you remember, the Celtics had all these, picks in waiting. And they were going to leverage all these picks, all these future firsts, much like we see with the Knicks, much like we see with OKC, and much like is doing in Utah right now, stockpiling a shit ton of future first round picks and leverage those future first round picks to land you a star. Every single year we heard about the Celtics, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Paul George, Kawhi. They were always in the mix from some disgruntled superstar where, the Celtics were going to come with this Godfather offer of just everything. Have all you want. Here's the picks. We got young lottery picks as well. We got Tatum and Brown when they were still relatively young. We could leverage those and go land the big fish. And one by one, players kept saying, I'm not trying to go to no damn Boston. Anthony Davis didn't even have to say it. His dad came out and said it. My son ain't going to no Boston. And it flamed out. So then Danny Ainge had to get up out of there and took his talents to Utah. Now he's doing the same thing. And now you see the type of superstar he's allegedly trying to recruit in Utah. It's Luka. He ain't out here trying to get certain other types of superstars because you're not going to get certain superstars to go to no damn Utah. So now he's taking all them first round picks and he's collecting them for this Godfather type offer, this offer that you can't refuse to go get an elite top tier star. Well, what happens when you have that roster that you kept promising we're going to use all these picks to cash out and bring in a guy, and it never happens? You're stuck with this current Boston Celtic team where you're looking at lottery picks up and down this roster. But then when it comes right down to it in terms of, well, who is the guy? We thought it was Tatum. We've been told it's Tatum. We at times have believed it's Tatum. But we've got more examples of it not being Tatum than we do of it actually being Tatum. The boy genius has ducked a lot of smoke. It needs to be called out. He has maintained his team. He didn't build it. Built this team. But in regards to maintaining this team and the lack of improving this team, that goes to the boy genius. This is his second year being in charge from that perspective. What moves have we seen? The Malcolm Brogdon move, I felt was a good move. But if he can't start over Marcus Smart, then maybe I'm over-evaluating or overvaluing what Malcolm Brogdon has left. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no issues admitting if I'm wrong. I thought Malcolm Brogdon, who at one point in time was trending after being Rookie of the Year, and then, yes, he won Sixth Man of the Year this year, but to me, I thought he could come in and be a starting point guard on this team and get it cracking. This is a guy that has dropped 20 plus and can average 7 dimes in this league and play top tier defense. And yet he's been used as a guy off the bench, and Mazzulla won't make any type of adjustments to get him some run in the playoffs, maybe as a lead guard to start. I mean, even in the playoffs, he's giving you 14, 3, and 4. And again, this is in 28 minutes. And he's shooting 40%, 41% from 3. So Malcolm Brogdon is sitting right there. And just like, the Nuggets have made adjustments, the Lakers have made adjustments, the Heat have made adjustments, the Celtics have yet to make any adjustments. Their big adjustment is, Time Lord, when we realize we're going up against Joel Embiid after 5 games. Problematic. Extremely problematic. Scrub Zero. Ainge is just hoarding picks. He don't want no superstar. No, see, Scrub Zero, I think that's where I think he's going to try, just like he tried in Boston. He tried to get superstars. It's hard in this time and age. Players that are melanated are not stupid. It's hard. When Jaylen Brown is coming out and saying it is difficult to be a black man and play in Boston, when he's saying that in 2023, you don't think other guys in the league talk about that? Anthony, the Celtics had a package that would have been enticing enough to the Pels for them to do it, especially when the Pels were clearly trying to make sure the Lakers don't end up with Anthony Davis. The last thing they were trying to do was to trade Anthony Davis to the Lakers. So they were trying to find anybody else that had a substantial offer that could step in and make that thing happen so they can avoid having to deal with the Lakers. So Anthony Davis was a real possibility for Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. But the problem is that Anthony Davis is not going to report to no Boston if he's traded there. And his own father came out and said it leading up to all the trade speculation. So he tried to get a superstar multiple times. Kawhi, PG, AD, KD. He tried. They ain't going to go there. And it's the same thing in Utah. If he tries to trade for a melanated star to go to Utah, they are not showing up. So that's why we're hearing now about the Utah Jazz are keeping their tabs on Luka. Oh, you don't say. No shit. You think there's a reason? You don't think that there's a reason why Lauri Markkanen was targeted by the Utah Jazz? Just saying. Dudes are not showing up in Boston, man. Bros are not showing up in Boston unless they have to. Unless they have to. That KG shit was cute, but he did it because he was that desperate to get a ring. Even he had trepidations about going to Boston. He had trepidations about going to Boston. He had to get with Ray Allen and he had to get with Jesus Shuttlesworth on the phone and be like, yo, dogs, you really trying to do this? Are you going? Because I ain't going there by myself. Like me and Paul Pierce is all right, but I'm not trying to do that without you, though. It need to be all of us if we're going to make this work. When your pops got to come out and say, don't you dare send my son to Boston. I mean, Anthony Davis' pops was like, don't you dare send my son to Boston. We won't be there. Y'all could trade his contract there, his rights there, but guess who won't be there? Anthony Davis. So it's going to be Really, really interesting to see how this shakes out. I don't know. Joe Mazzulla to me definitely does not last. There's no reason to. There's no reason to bring him back. Just like to me, there's no reason to bring back Jaylen Brown. There's no reason to bring back Joe Mazzulla. There's absolutely no reason to bring either one of them back. I've seen enough from this Tatum and Brown thing. Break it up. Clearly, you feel like Tatum is more the guy, so fine, build around Tatum. If you're going to build around Tatum, that means Jaylen Brown can no longer be there. Now, whether you try to get, I don't know what the trade package would be. There's been a lot of Atlanta talk. You know, I don't know. To me, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, I don't think you can get DeJounte Murray. But I don't think that would be, unless it's DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray could be an improvement. If you're telling me John Collins, DeJounte Murray for Jaylen Brown and maybe some other ancillary pieces, I'm not terribly mad at that. But I don't know where else you can send Jaylen Brown. Maybe you could do something with Houston. Houston got a lot of young pieces. The Warriors have some young pieces. And they might be willing to get rid of, they might be willing to try to offload either A. Wiggins or Poole. If you're the Dubs, would you flip Wiggins and a couple of those youngins to go get Jaylen Brown? Let's say, would you do Wiggins, Kuminga, and Moody for Jaylen Brown if you are the Golden State Warriors? So you get the Wiggins contract off the books, you get Jaylen Brown, who will be entering free agency next year. So he'll be on the last year of his deal. You offload the Wiggins contract, which is, overpaying him, but it is what it is in today's NBA. But you have to expend two of those youngins. And Kuminga and Moody weren't playing a lot anyway. Steve Kerr's not trying to play them. Clearly, he doesn't have a faith in them to entrust them with real minutes. So if you're the Dubs and you're trying to get better and you're trying to extend the longevity of Stephen Wardell Curry's, career, do you do that by flipping for Jaylen Brown? Do you do that by leveraging two of these youngins who, you've been able to scoop up with all these extra picks, but haven't used them in terms of actually winning games? Do you do that? Kuminga, Wiggins, Moody, and whatever else, pick, swaps, protected, whatever, for Jaylen Brown? Or do you go down to Atlanta, see if you can get DeJounte Murray, and if you can't get DeJounte Murray, do the Hawks have anything else substantial that you think would be an upgrade if they played in Boston? Would DeAndre Hunter be a better option than Jaylen Brown? Would a combination of DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and maybe a youngin off the bench, maybe Jalen Johnson? I like him a lot, but I wouldn't do that if I was Atlanta. So, yeah, Brown's got to go. Mazzulla's got to go. We'll see how that goes when it comes to Boston. But their series looks to be over. If you want to get into the Miami portion of it, isn't it funny? Isn't it interesting that the team to give the Heat the most run is not the Knicks, even though they took them to 6 games. It's not the Bucks who were the 1 seed. It's clearly not the 2 seed in the Celtics, but the Bulls and the Hawks. The Bulls were just a few minutes away from putting the Heat out to pasture in the play-in. The Hawks actually beat the Heat in the play-in to lock in the 7 seed. So isn't it interesting that this 8th seed that has come out of nowhere, not necessarily, but, has had a favorable path. Now, this is just purely beating the shit out of the Celtics. But they got a break with Giannis missing 2 games in the first round. They got a break there. I know the Heat culture shit will make you think this team is a team of destiny and all that, but they caught a break with the Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, missing 2 games. Then they go and they face a team that is flawed in the New York Knicks. Now they're facing a team that has a 34-year-old rookie head coach who doesn't know when to take timeouts. It doesn't know how to adjust his roster on the fly and make adjustments in-game or within a series as a 2 seed. favorable path. The whole narrative about, all these guys are undrafted and da-da-da-da. Yeah, that's cool. But Jimmy Butler was not undrafted. There's certain guys, Bam Adebayo was not undrafted. There's certain guys on this team that can go. And the Heat have done a great job of collecting those types of players. And while, yes, you can give me the Caleb Martins, the Gabe Vincents, the Duncan Robinsons, this shit don't go without Jimmy and Bam playing like Jimmy and Bam. Bam has played like a man in the paint. And that's been something that, that they've been playing around, calling him Idris, calling him by his government name when he don't play up to being called Bam Adebayo. They've been calling him Idris. He has not played like Idris in this 3-game series so far. He has played like Bam. And then you got Jimmy being Jimmy. And whether it's Grant Williams or whether it's Al Horford, Jimmy don't forget shit, bruh. He's been that type of dude since Marquette. And probably that type of dude since JUCO ball. But he's been this type of dude since Marquette. He was talking shit when I was covering him at the Big East tournament with Marquette. Remember, it was him, Crowder, Darius Johnson Odom, my man's Blue. It was a good squad they had there, but it was a bunch of JUCO guys. Buzz Williams and all that back then. Like, it was a fun time covering that run they had there at the Big East tournament back in the day. But Jimmy's been that dude since then. Okay? And he's carried it to the league, the chip on his shoulder. His life story is like The Blind Side, if you really want to look at it. His life story is similar to The Blind Side. So he ain't undrafted. Bam Adebayo is not undrafted. Let's see. Head back to the chat. Script Zero, that's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, only in the sense of, no, I understood what you were talking about with the Danny Ainge, but in terms of, I just think bros ain't trying to go to Boston, so it don't matter how many picks. If the players' reps are saying, yeah, you can make that deal, but he's never showing up, then that deal's not happening. So that's why you go to Utah, where, you're going to X out a good portion of the league anyway, just by being in Utah. So now you can target the likes of Luka. Hell, maybe even after a couple of years, Victor Wembanyama. Do we really think Victor Wembanyama is going to spend his whole career in San Antonio? Walker Kessler. I mean, there's certain guys that gets targeted by the Utah that, makes a lot of sense. Lauri Markkanen makes a lot of sense. Just saying. Scrub Zero. Sounds like the Celtics are stuck, but that's the city of Boston and its people. I mean, look, I think ultimately they know what type of time they're on up there. Jaylen Brown has spoken about it. Marcus Smart has also spoken about it. Like, it's not immune. Like, we hear about the stories back in the day of them taking a shit in Bill Russell's bedroom after winning them a chip. But it hasn't stopped since then. Like, it's not like, oh, that was then, this is not. No. Literally, Marcus Smart said a few years ago that he was still getting shit yelled at him on the streets. Jaylen Brown, during this whole postseason run, has made comments about how it is to be someone that is melanated up in that part of the country and playing for that team. So, yeah, it's a thing that's still going on. So you're going to have to win in spite of that if you're a melanated person. It comes with the territory. Nets World in the house. What's good, Nets World? Doodoo Brown. I mean, has it really come to that for Jaylen Brown? You don't think he could be? Here's the thing, right? Do we think Jaylen Brown is what's his ceiling? Is he a number one option on a good team? Is he a number one option on the championship team? I mean, Scrub Zero has called him Scottie Pippen, so clearly Scrub Zero doesn't think Jaylen Brown has a number one option ceiling. But if that's the case, then what's his ceiling? Is he a number 3 on a championship team? Can he be a number 2 on a championship team? Because that's what the Celtics thought. The Celtics thought Jaylen Brown could be a number 2 on a championship team. Because clearly they think Jason Tatum's the one on a championship team. So are they accurate or are they tripping? And Jaylen Brown is no better than a 3 on it. Is he a Wiggins where he's got to be like the 3rd or 4th guy to get a ring? Script Zero, all about matchups and health. In regards to what? In regards to trading Jaylen Brown? Jimmy greater than the point fraud. Oh, that's facts all day. That's facts all day. The complete opposite. CP3, the point fraud, thinks he has the story of Jimmy Butler. Like he has the problem is that the point fraud has the same chip on his shoulder like Jimmy Butler does. One of them is deserved and the other is just fabricated. The point fraud was a number 3 ranked point guard coming out of high school in the country. He was a lottery pick. Everything has been bestowed upon the point fraud. Jimmy had to go JUCO, then go Marquette, and he wasn't the star on that Marquette team. Jay Crowder was more of a star on that Marquette team. Darius Johnson-Odom was more of a star on that Marquette team. But yet Jimmy was the one drafted at the bottom of the first round. It then had to sit behind Luol Deng. It then had to wait his turn to become the number 1. And after Derrick Rose fell down and went boom, thanks to the meniscus tearing taskmaster. And then the Bulls, after Jimmy went and carried that team, the Bulls didn't want to pay him. So they had to move him. And then the Timberwolves, in theory, chose Karl Anthony Towns over Jimmy. So then he had to force his way out. And then the Sixers chose, if you leave it to Jimmy, Tobias Harris. But in reality, they chose Ben Simmons over Jimmy. And now he is finally in Miami and he's finally being handed the keys and being told, it's your world, dog. While the point fraud has bounced from team to team to team, and that black cloud that I think he cast the day he punched Julius Hodge in the nuts in front of Dickie V on the 4-letter network for absolutely no reason, that black cloud has followed him from franchise to franchise. Nets world. It was for the best since I don't think he would have got. Oh, you talking about Melo? Okay. Yeah, Melo's the second story. I'll get there in a sec. And even Brian made comments as well saying, I hate Boston. I mean, I don't know how many players that are melanated actually have positive feelings. I think Perk is the only one. I think Perk has been the only person I've heard. But see, here's the thing. If you know where he came from in terms of his hometown down there in Texas, it's even worse than Boston. Okay? Like the type of racism he endured in his hometown was top tier even over Boston. So when he came to Boston, he was like, oh, the players are tripping off this? Doesn't mean it's better. Just means, oh, you're just not as racist as what I'm used to. Nets World, he's number 2 at his ceiling. Okay, so Nets World thinks Jaylen Brown is a 2 at his ceiling. Okay. He's a second. Let me get to the next one. He's a second if he's behind a guy like Steph Curry. Okay. All right, as his 1. All right. I mean, okay, that's interesting to me. And at his floor, it's like a 2. I'm starting to think if Jaylen Brown could be a 2 on a champion. Like, yeah, I guess if it's Wardell and you're still getting peak Wardell. But I'm starting to think Wiggins was the second best player on the Warriors in the finals. Not in the lead up to the finals, but in that finals, in that series against Boston. I mean, I was screaming on my podcast that Wiggins should have been finals MVP. So yes, I think in a series, Jaylen Brown could be the second best player on a champion. I just don't know if for an entire season, which ends up in a champion, in the championship, that he could be that second guy. That's the part I'm a little like, these last couple of years have not done well to improve how I feel about Jaylen Brown in that aspect. Scrub Zero in regards to Miami advancing. Oh yeah, no, for sure. Okay, I got you now. It's all about health and matchups. I mean, it's a fraudulent. See, I almost jumped out the window. I am not Chris Broussard. There's certainly, you can poke holes in this run, but there's nothing you can do about that. The Heat didn't purposefully injure the Nigerian freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. They didn't do that. He missed 2 games. It happened. I just think it's interesting trying to figure out, well, if you're the Celtics, how do you fix this? How do you fix this if you're the Celtics? And it's going to take a lot, but they're going to have to unload some key pieces. Like, outside of Jaylen Brown, I don't know who else. Can you get something for Tom Lord? I'm not sure who else is really like someone you could package. I guess Brogdon. Have teams seen enough? But again, he's 30. He's going to be 31 next year. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if you're going to get anything significant in return. Who's a Malcolm Brogdon away, besides maybe the Celtics, from advancing deep into the playoffs? Jaylen Brown might be their best piece to flip. You can maybe throw in Time Lord potentially, but you got to, with Time Lord, it's all about health. When he's ready to go, he's effective, but he's also limited because he can't do certain things as a big. That's where we all know Jimmy is a 1. No, facts. Well, now we know. There was a long time where people were debating. Because, back when he was still with the Bulls, that was like at the tail end of my fandom with the Bulls, and they were still trying to figure out if Jimmy was a number 1. They couldn't figure out if he was a number 1, like because he was their number 1, or if he was a number 1 in terms of on any team he's a number 1. And that's a thing you have to figure out. And not every franchise knows how to decipher that. Are you a number 1 because you're our number 1? Or can you go to another team and supplant their number 1? And I think the Bulls, the Timberwolves, and the Sixers all thought Jimmy was just a number 1 for them, not every team's number 1. And Miami swooped in and made it pop. He said, no, you're our number 1, and you're going to be a number 1 around this league. Just come down here. And it's been all she wrote since then. Script Zero, I think Brown could be a number 2 on the championship team as long as he's not stuck with another number 2. Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting to see him in Atlanta. I just don't know what they would have to give up to get to that. Like, I don't know what the Hawks would have to give up, because let's look at the Hawks. We know it's Trae Young. We know it's DeJounte Murray. John Collins is always in trade rumors. But in terms of young expendable pieces, AJ Griffin flashed at times. I'm really big on Jalen Johnson. If I'm them, I don't touch him. I don't move him for anything, to be quite honest with you, because if I could get rid of that DeAndre Hunter contract, then I'm sliding Jalen Johnson in the start, right in his spot. But I think in terms of trying to navigate how to get through this, how do you build a deal for Jaylen Brown with this roster? This roster is not that great, okay? You're assuming they're trying to keep Trae Young. You want to create a scenario where you're still hanging on to DeJounte Murray. So in theory, their 2 best players are not available. Okay, now who's the next expendable guy that can actually get you something in return? You would assume it's either John Collins or DeAndre Hunter, right? So now, are you willing to get rid of Collins and Hunter? Like, what team is going to take both of them? First of all, contract-wise and money-wise, you have to only give up one. If you're giving up Jaylen Brown and he's a 3, then maybe you try to get DeAndre Hunter back. But again, if you're the Celtics, why would you want DeAndre Hunter back as your piece, that can't be the main piece. But if now you throw in a Jalen Johnson or you throw in a AJ Griffin to sweeten the deal, then maybe that's the move there. But it's really difficult to get this trade out the door. That's why I think if I'm the Warriors, I'm calling about Jaylen Brown. Because I got expendable youngins. I got youngins for days. And Steve Kerr ain't playing them anyway. Steve Kerr is not playing them. So I could give you Wiggins. I could give you Kuminga and Moody for Jaylen Brown. What's good? Throw in a couple of future first if you want, some pick swaps, lottery protected, whatever. Why not do that? But it's really going to become a thing. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see how that shakes out because somebody's going to try to trade for Jaylen Brown, and I want to know what his value is and what type of player you can get back. Let's head back to the chat. That's real. Congrats on 400 subscribers. Oh, we hit that? I know we were close. All right, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Onward and upwards. It's kind of crazy how fast we're growing. When I first started popping off with the live streams in what was that, November? I only had 60 people. I only had I wasn't really taking YouTube serious at that point. And that kind of began the time to all right, let me see if I really focused and try to be more consistent. Could I actually grow on YouTube? So that's kind of dope. Thank you for that. 400 subscribers. That's dope. That's world. Being a number one is tough. Yeah, damn sure is. And that's why there's so few of them. There's not a lot of true number ones. And again, I think that's a real distinction. Being a number one by default on a team just because you're the best player, or are you a true league-wide number one? That's a real conversation of how many league-wide number one guys are there. There's a bunch of default guys that are number one. Every team has a number one guy by default. But could that default one be a league-wide one? There's not that many. That's where, but Brown is definitely going after this year. I agree. Their window may be closed. No, it's closed. To me, it's closed. Because again, the window is how far can we get with Tatum and Brown? And if we're saying Brown is gone, then the window's closed. Now, Gabe Vincent has been heat, and that's the thing, right? Because again, Marcus Smart is supposed to be this defensive wizard, and again, he won the award. What was that, last year or the year before? And it was deserving, right? But when can we say Marcus Smart truly locked a guard? We've seen him give wings fits and even big men fits. But when have we seen him lock a guard? Just asking. Because if Gabe Vincent is cooking and I got Marcus Smart, shouldn't I be able to put Marcus Smart on Gabe Vincent and that Gabe Vincent problem go away? Just asking. That's world. He was the best player on the floor last night. Yeah, Gabe Vincent was the truth. He deserved it. And I like what they did by giving him the little shine on TNT, bringing him up on the podium there with Shaq and Chuck and the Jet with EJ. I enjoyed that. Give him his shine because he deserved it. He's been cooking all playoff long, low key. Like win for Kyrie Irving in terms of what? Marcus Smart locked Kyrie? That's where Gabe Vincent had a better playoff game than a point forward entire playoff career. Now that's facts though. That's facts. That's 1,000%. That's world. You are speaking my language, sir. You are pulling up and letting the world know the fraudulence that is the point fraud. And I think, Gabe Vincent is a guy that clearly he's not going to become a household name, but he's just going to be another Heat guy that kind of fits in, plays his role, and is going to make some bread. He's going to make some bread. Now, whether that bread is with Miami, I don't know. But like he has shown he can hoop at this level. And he has shown that he is not afraid to take shots. And that's the key thing with a lot of these Miami guys, is that they're not afraid to take shots. And if we're going to pivot to, away from a team that takes shots to a guy that was known throughout his career for taking shots, then let's get to my man, Carmelo, the 9th leading scorer in NBA history, Carmelo Anthony. 9th. 28,289 points for Carmelo Anthony. Now, here's the funny shit about it. Imagine if they didn't blackball him. Imagine if they didn't blackball Carmelo Anthony. How much further could he be up? He definitely would have caught Shaq. It's only 300 and some points. He would have caught Shaq. Could he have played long enough to catch Wilt? It's possible. And if you're catching Wilt, then he could probably get the Dirk. His Dirk was only 100 and some over Wilt. Probably doesn't catch Jordan. But if they don't blackball Carmelo, he probably ends up the 6th leading scorer in NBA history. Robbery. Complete robbery. And, the outpouring of support has been coming in. Kevin Durant on the IG stories has been, putting stuff on the gram with him and Melo, calling this a foul, which fair. He's calling this an offensive foul because he's got that arm inside and he's, hooking him a little bit, which is fair. But then he's also got the moment of when Melo said he had a milk dud head ass. So again, a lot of outpouring of support for my man's Carmelo as he walks away from the game. And I don't do the whole thing of calling people out per se, but there's a lot of fake love on the timeline for Carmelo Anthony. And I think Ab is still in here. Ab is in here, so he knows for sure. There was a point in time where riding for Carmelo Anthony got you a lot of hate, got you a lot of venom. I had to take it to national airwaves. I had to call in on many different programs on national television defending Melo. I became considered a Melo sympathizer just because at that point in time, he was the 19th leading scorer in NBA history when they first blackballed him. So just imagine that. They blackballed him. He was 19th. He was able to fight for his career and get back into the good enough graces of the league, and then went from 19th to 9th overall in just a couple of years. So imagine if they wouldn't have snatched that time frame where he had to sit and wait and keep posting Lifetime Fitness videos of him cooking. So I got called a Melo sympathizer. I got called a Melo apologist because I was out here riding. I was going on national syndicated radio shows riding for Melo and questioning the acumen of these people that were in charge. Remember, Team USA moved on from Melo when he was Captain America at that point, when they had the rebirth of Team USA, part of the Redeem Team. Bron and them is out here doing Netflix docs about how instrumental Melo was, but Team USA as a whole told him, I'm good, love, enjoy. This was a real thing that happened to this man, and whether it was the New York media, whether it was the national media, or whether it was just kicking a man when he was down because it was a popular thing to do on the timeline, it was pathetic. And there were a lot of people that I thought knew basketball that were out here jumping on Melo's grave. And I've been giving them the side eye ever since. And then a lot of them are giving that fake love on the timeline right now. Oh, salute to Melo, great career. Where were you when he was blackballed? Where were you when he was being out here and the Daryl Morey said, I don't know if Melo is a player in today's NBA? Where were you? Where were you when multiple organizations scoffed at the idea of bringing in Melo for even a tryout? Where were you when the Knicks ignored Carmelo Anthony. And he had to go start popping up at Nets games to get love in New York. Where were you? Don't believe the hype today. It's a lot of fake love out here for Melo. He was a punchline around the league. Anytime he posted Lifetime Fitness videos, they clowned him on the timeline. But then he put on that hoodie. And he became a superhero. He became Hoodie Melo. And then the block realized, you know what? Melo really is from Red Hook. Melo really from the DMV. We gonna ride for Melo. And the tide began to turn. The streets brought Melo back. The league did not. The streets brought Melo back. Hoodie Melo was the turning point. They were showing the Lifetime Fitness vids on the 4-Letter Network and other sports media networks, and they were clowning him. Until the streets said, Hoodie Melo. Hashtag it, we spreading Hoodie Melo. Then all of a sudden, other NBA hoopers started pulling up for open runs at Lifetime Fitness. Hoodie Melo, the streets brought Melo back to the league. Don't let them change the narrative. It happened. He was blackballed. It was a wrap for him. Couldn't even go to the Mecca. Now he pulled up at the Mecca during the Knicks playoff run, and everyone is shaking his hands, hugging him. Oh, so glad to have you back. He ain't go nowhere. He was right there the whole damn time. You wouldn't let him in the building. He had to go up the block to Barclays to get love. Don't believe the hype. I'll hit the chat. That's what in terms of him being number one. Oh, like Kyrie. Okay, I got you now. Kyrie, yeah. Kyrie to me is not a true number one either. So yeah, if he wants to be a bootleg number one, like Kyrie, yeah, like Kyrie is a default number one. He's not a championship team number one. He's not a league-wide number one. No, he's been a number two everywhere he's been. The one time he was entrusted to be a number one, it was Cleveland, and they were a lottery team. And then you could debate whether that first year in Boston, he was a number one. But again, he had Tatum and Brown around him with Hayward. So was he really the number one? And then we know what happened after he got hurt. IT came in and damn near did. Yeah. Script Zero. Imagine if Melo had been starting all those years. That's what I'm saying. Like, and he was still a starting quality player. Again, don't let them fool you. When he had a sabbatical, if you want to be nice, when he had a sabbatical, they sent him home. That Houston thing ran him out the league. That Houston thing ran him out the league. And they scoffed at him when he tried to push back when they suggested in OKC that he should come off the bench. They scoffed at him. Even though he was shooting 36% from three, which was above league average. He gets chastised for shooting too much. He was shooting above league average from three and taking a good amount of them at 6 a game. And as a distant number three, because remember, this is with Russie and Paul George. With Russie and Paul George as a distant third option, as a guy that was transitioning to become more of a spot-up shooter, he was giving you 16 and still hitting the glass, giving you 6 boards and shooting 36% from three, above league average. But they laughed him out the league when he scoffed at the notion of coming off the bench with the Thunder. Then the Houston debacle. Then COVID, then Hoodie Melo, then quarantine Lifetime Fitness. Then Dame and CJ finally convinced him to accept a role with Portland. He regurgitated his career. But again, we're talking about, imagine if Melo had been starting all those years. Imagine if he didn't have to go through the Houston nonsense and be sent home. That's where all the I don't feel bad for Melo. I don't feel bad for Melo for not having a ring. Melo deserves to be in the league over the point fraud, in my opinion. I mean, well, shit, and that's where I think you belong in the league, over the point fraud. Scrubs here. We know how the fake love ish goes. Can't shoot these fair weather fans. No love. I mean, but that's the thing. It's not just the fans. I expect that for fans. Fandom is a mental illness. You know what I'm saying? Like, fandom is short for fanatic. Fanaticism is a mental illness. Like, so I expect that from fans. It was people that allegedly had basketball acumen, that had basketball IQs. It was former players. Because again, we get former players get grandfathered into all these analyst expert jobs. And we're like, all right, but this guy played, so he must know what he's talking about. And then you hear some of the shit these former players saying, you're like, oh, wait, maybe you just got to the league off athleticism, not IQ. Because what you just said don't make any sense. A lot of that was happening when Melo was exiled. Melo at least earned minimum wage for a vet, or deserved minimum wage for a vet. I mean, look, I think, to me, the thing with him was always the role. When they told him you can no longer be a bench guy, that was a harsh pill to swallow. But I think the problem is that at that time, he still could have been a starter in the league. They thought they were exiling someone who's no longer good at the position. Like, remember down here, that 33% from three. But you see, he had nothing close to that prior. So they thought, for that extremely small sample size in Houston, Daryl Morey and the brain trust in Houston, which again, Daryl Morey has a lot of power. Let's not forget that. Daryl Morey, once he assumed, after this little 10-game sample size, where Melo shot 33%, which was right below league average, but to Daryl Morey's eyes, Carmelo Anthony was done. And Daryl Morey, who carries a lot of weight in the analytics community, into the basketball nerd community at large, he has a lot of sway. So when Daryl Morey said Melo is done, it sent shockwaves through the league, and it kind of spread like wildfire. Well, I guess Melo's done. Even though there was more of a track record of Melo being better at what he does than Daryl Morey at that point, and by the way, to this very day. Daryl Morey will never be good at what he is currently doing than Carmelo was at what he was doing. Yet and still, when Daryl Morey put the word out that Melo was done, everyone around the league just silently, and sometimes not so silently, co-signed. And what has Daryl Morey done since then? Not a damn thing. Abbott's Houston team was tripping with Melo. Yeah, that was really when the black ball became official. You could argue it began in OKC with them like openly asking Melo, "Are you coming off the bench?" And Melo's reaction to that is a classic. He could have started with all these trash. He could have started with all these trash players. Yeah, I mean, look, I think unfortunately Melo got caught in the reputation game, and he could never shake that Daryl Morey stigma that he was done, that he was washed, and he accepted the role at the end. And then here's the problem, right? Even at the end, when he quote unquote accepted the role in a league where it's all about threes, he shot 41% from three. And Portland didn't want to bring him back. He shot 41% from three off the bench, and Portland didn't want to bring him back. So he took his talents to the Lake Show, ran with his man's Bron on the way out, and still shot 38% from three. So again, a league that is predicated on shooting. And a guy that can still go down there and crash boards and get boards and could be bombs away. Now, Melo's not a 3-and-D guy. But the fact that you can't have a guy who shoots 38% from three, he can't have a job in the league? A guy that is still athletically capable of getting up and down the court, who is shooting above league average from three at a good number. Mike Muscala is in this league for having these same numbers in terms of shooting. But Mike Muscala will be permanently rostered, yet Melo had to retire today. George Niang, all those types of dudes are putting up numbers shooting-wise like this. Let's go with George Niang, because I know for a fact he has numbers similar to this. He's being rostered, but Melo's not. That's where I don't feel for Melo for not having a ring because he went for the bag, which I respect. But he could have gone to the Heat with Bron and Wade, so that's why I don't feel bad. Yeah, I mean, he wanted $100 million. He wanted his bag. He could have. Although allegedly the rumor was they tried to get Stoudemire, right? They wanted Stoudemire to be a part of that. Bron and Wade were trying to get anybody. Let's go ahead and keep that a buck. There was a lot of guys that they tried to figure out who could be the big once they figured out that they were going to do the Miami thing. But yeah, he chose the bag, and I never hate that. That's where I would average 0.7 points per game. All right, well, how much did the point fraud average in the playoffs? Because, I mean, you know, let's see. I think 0.7 is more than 0. Last time I checked. Yeah, his last, I mean, I don't see anything past this date right here. So after May 2nd, you got a higher average in the playoffs than the point fraud. It's the difference between playing the game and knowing the game. Well, I wish someone would tell these media executives that. Unfortunately, their notion is you played, so you know more than most, which you would think is the same, but it's not. Yes, you might know how certain plays are run. It's kind of like Tony Romo with the NFL stuff. Like, it was dope early when he could call out plays because he was just removed from the sidelines, right? So he could anticipate plays because he still had that brain and was wired into, I just let go of studying a playbook all the time. Now it's a few years removed from that. The analysis don't hit the same. He's not predicting plays like he used to. He's not calling out the tendencies like he used to because now he's just a dude like us watching games. So the allure of, you know, oh, I'm in the huddle. I know the check downs. I know the hot route here and yeah, that's cool. But what happens when you're 4 or 5 years removed? Can you now go in a room and study the tape and then, or put the work in to go and study the tape and lean off of that knowledge? Or are you just leaning off the fact that, hey, I just retired, so all this shit is still in my brain, so I can still read shit on the fly? But once you're 4 or 5 years removed, oh yeah, I'm not going to be putting in them 12-hour days to study film like I was still playing. I'm not doing that no more. So now the analysis suffers. And then your bosses allegedly have to speak to you about it, and they deny it once they're questioned about it. Anywho. Script Zero. Too many of these guys plays, but don't know how to talk about it stuff or know what they're talking about. But we see things are more narrative driven than fact driven. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the culture. It's the debate culture. The debate culture has taken over sports media. Like for me, I got into the game. You know, I went to college for journalism. Like I was trying to be a reporter out here. I was trying to be like the beat guy. I was trying to be like, you know, Peter Vesey. I was trying to be like David Aldridge. I was trying to be like those guys. And Unfortunately, by the time I got out of college and got into the game was already nasty. The game had already made the shift to just being about opinions and not really what you're seeing, studying the craft and breaking shit down. The gossip culture had already started. So I got in too late. So then I had to pivot into radio and then podcasting and then streaming and then behind the scenes for television and cable and things like that. So it really, I've seen the landscape change before my very eyes, and it is hella problematic. So my man, Mamelo Carmelo, but let's not ever forget Olympic Hoodie Melo. Let's not ever forget, again, when I tell you the hood and the streets brought Melo back, this is what I'm talking about. Never forget when Melo went to the bodega with a robe on in the middle of the night with his Olympic hat on. Never forget. Never forget. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the streets brought Melo back to relevance. When the league blackballed him after the Houston debacle, it was the streets that said, nah, he not done. And the streets embraced him, and he was able to come back. And it was because of moments like this. Hoodie Melo and Olympic Melo and going to the bodega in the middle of the night. And I believe, wasn't Lala narrating? She had the video. She had the cell phone, and she was narrating him literally getting up in the middle of the night and going to the bodega. And you see the bread he walking with. You see the bread he walking with. Ain't no John Morant shit where he got the strap right. Like he's going middle of the night in a hood, in a robe. In a robe. That's monogrammed Melo with the Olympic hat. So he's not hiding who he is. And the man's went to the bodega in the middle of the night. Goat shit. We can talk about real ones and, you know, he was authentic to the culture and all that type of shit. Like there's a lot of dudes perpetrating. This is what it really looks like when you're really outside. When you claim to be outside and you're really outside, going to the bodega, 3 a.m, with a robe on, with a Olympic hat on, and you're 6'8". Come on, dogs. Hoodie Melo. A legend, not only on the court, off the court, if you know, you know, but for certainly the streets brought him back. And I just want to make sure we never forget that and acknowledge that. When the league tries to give him all these bouquets of flowers, it's that same league that ran him out, and the streets refused and forced him back on the league, and they had to accept him. And I will be dropping some clips from some of the appearances I made on, national syndicated radio shows, hyping up Melo during his sabbatical, during his exile. I'll be dropping those on the Elon app on Twitter. Probably, we could probably get those out tomorrow. Yeah, we'll drop those tomorrow. So tap in on the Elon app if you haven't already. All right, let's see. Where else we want to go? We ain't even get into Lakers. I didn't realize we were going crazy. That Celtic thing really took over. Yeah, y'all were good here in the chat, keeping things pushing. All right, so Windhurst was busy today. I got people texting me, well, this is the end for LeBron. This is the end for LeBron. I don't know if this is an actual thing or Windhurst is just out here making up content just to get us through this Laker Nugget series. I'm pretty sure Alexandria is not still here with us, but she got her takes off because she's riding with Denver. Let's see. I told her I would scroll back and get to those. Alexandra, Denver just has to close tonight and bye-bye Lake Show. Braun can't throw threes, and Jokic and Murray eating at the King's table. Okay, again, a lot of anti Lake Show, anti Braun, but she's rolling with the Nuggets. But yeah, she's not lying. Braun can't shoot, man, and LeBron has shot this series. He has shot the Lakers out of this series, and it's hella problematic. We can go to the box score if y'all want. We can go and check out the series in regards to all of that, but it's really sad how they let game 3 go. I never felt like they were in control, even when they were up. Weren't they up like 11 at one point? But Bron, at least he finally made some threes. You know what I'm saying? I'll give him that. But he took 9 of them, and that's the problem, right? Like, AD 8, 28 and 18. And again, we keep let's just go to the shot chart. Just that, to me, that tells me everything I need to know. Whenever I go to the shot chart and I just look up LeBron and I see all the X's are out here, like where they shouldn't be. Let's go ahead. Let's just go. Because boom, there they go. See, all the X's are where they should not be. They should not be here. They should not be here. Why are all these X's out here? Why is he shooting so much from right here? And the 3 he made, well, 1 was right here on the line, by the way. But anyway, like, these are corner 3s. You PJ Tucker, you made 1 out here. But the 3s you made were in the corner. Are you PJ Tucker? Y'all GOAT has turned into PJ Tucker from 3? Because look where these real 3s are doing. Not a damn thing. He got the 1 right here, but everything else, why does he keep shooting here? And we played the sound on Friday of Darvin Ham saying, yeah, they're giving Bron the 3. Right, for a reason, Darvin Ham. Because he's going to do this when you continuously give him the 3. He's going to keep taking them. Why is he taking all these 3s? And it's people now caping like, oh, man, he's on 1 foot. That shit don't matter because when Bron played well leading up to this, y'all weren't saying, oh, he's doing all, the narrative was, oh, he's doing all of this on 1 foot. King shit. He's not washed. Look at what he's doing on 1 foot. Now he's brick city from 3. What is he, 3 for 19 for the series? 3 of 19 from 3 for the series. And now, oh, well, I mean, he's on 1 foot. What that mean? If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. This shit been broke. So fix it by not shooting them. What are we doing here? He keeps shooting them. It makes no sense. 3 of 19. Why? You've been called the smartest basketball player ever. You've been called you have the highest IQ of any basketball player ever. Why are you 3 of 19 from 3 and still taking them? What part of the acumen is that? What part of the highest basketball IQ we've ever seen is that? 3 of 19 from 3? John Starks did that in Game 7 against the Rockets. And you know what Pat Riley says to this day? I should have told him to stop shooting. I should have put in Rolando Blackman. Fast forward 20, 30 years, we're letting y'all king, greatest of all time, most points ever in the NBA, go out here looking flabby and sick like Larry Holmes, shooting 3 of 19 from 3? Somebody make it make sense. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of it. That's world. This is the end for LeBron. I mean, it's looking like it, bruh. Remember, it was all the talk of the fix is in, Lakers, Celtics. Okay. See, what had happened? What had happened was, oh, that script didn't make it to Staples. It didn't make it to Boston this time, that script. I thought the fix was in. I thought the conspiracy theorists had it all figured out. Okay. Let's see. Scripture, that's LeBron Curry. Bruh, 3 of 19. Lake Curry. Y'all killing him. I love it. LeWardell, Stephen Curry. Bruh, it's crazy. It really is crazy, man. Bro, you see it, Nets World. You see it. You see it. Like, it's really crazy, bro. I guess just prove the NBA really isn't scripted. Well, I wouldn't go that. Not in this. I've never thought that this type of stuff was scripted. Like getting teams to the NBA Finals and all that. There was too many Detroit, San Antonio back-to-back NBA Finals for the NBA to have this rigged in that instance. Now, the draft lottery, that's rigged. The draft lottery is rigged. Now, I put out a YouTube short on, I feel the NBA draft lottery was what is and was rigged. And people are like, oh, you got no proof for that. I'm like, well, hold up. Literally, the first one ever was rigged because the Knicks got Patrick Ewing. Then we could go to the Bulls having the worst odds imaginable and somehow landing Chicago's own Derrick Rose. We can go to LeBron and the Cavaliers. We can go to the Houston Rockets getting Yao Ming that had a notoriously high Chinese population in their city at the time. We could go to New Orleans being the smallest media market in the entire league, and magically they end up with Zion Williamson, a potentially transcendent athlete at the time. You're going to give a transcendent athlete a marketing superstar to the smallest media market that was struggling to get coverage because their franchise player had just left them for a premier franchise. Okay? Like, there's tons of examples. The Spurs are 3-0 when they decide to tank. You don't think that's rigged? 3-0? You know how many times the Knicks have tried to tank? You know how many times the Bulls have tried to tank? And the one time they didn't tank is the one time they ended up magically with Chicago's own Derrick Rose? Come on, bruh. It's right there if you don't want to admit it, because there's no, smoking gun. There's no one like Ja flashing, evidence on IG. Like, okay, just because you don't see that, then that's plausible deniability. Okay. But if you pay attention to how certain teams end up with certain picks, when there's a guy that they need to get and they somehow magically always end up getting that guy, yeah, that's because it's rigged, bruh. And I'm happy with that, so I could watch the game that I enjoy. No, look, that's the thing. I think referees can clearly make a difference. And we saw that with Kings Lakers back in the day. And we've seen it variously throughout, even with the Donaghy scandal, right? So we've seen enough to where it's like plausible that, yes, referees have an impact on the game. There's a difference between rigged and scripted. Yeah, for sure. Like, scripted is different. I never bought into the whole scripted stuff. Trust me, I've worked on shows that have been scripted. There is a huge difference between, because there has to be a lot, because that's a lot of acting, bruh. That's a lot of acting. Now, rigged is different, like Nets World is saying here. NBA could be rigged, for sure. Yeah, I know for sure. Well, let me not say that. Not libel. Allegedly, to me, and no one has told me this specifically, so let me just get out there. Allegedly, to me, I think if you examine the way that the NBA draft lottery has panned out and the way that certain stars have landed in certain places in certain time frames, I think there is enough plausible cause there to bring up the notion with evidence of just watching where people land and watching the pattern to where that the NBA draft lottery is potentially allegedly rigged. Yeah, it wasn't about the Knicks. It wasn't about, the Knicks will always be fine in Nets World. That's why, when Knicks fans complain about their draft, I'm like, it's not about that for y'all. Y'all don't need the number one pick. Y'all have been handed enough lottery picks that y'all keep tricking off. If the Knicks, and I think I broke this down on the podcast a couple of years ago, but like, if the Knicks would have drafted correctly, they could have had Tyrese Halliburton, Michael Porter Jr., Cam Reddish. Like, they could have had so many better players than what they currently had. But they don't know how to draft. But let's just go off straight up. They could have had Michael Porter Jr. Instead, they took Kevin Knox. Okay? They could have had Tyrese Halliburton. It's a real thing. So they passed on players that were better than who they ended up taking. Zion, the Knicks didn't need Zion. Zion didn't need New York because it's not about what the player or the team actually wants. It's what the league wants. The league had a struggling franchise in New Orleans that watched his franchise player, Anthony Davis, request a trade to go to the Lakers. So now there was a lack of star quality in New Orleans. It is already the smallest media market in the entire league. Memphis is number 2, by the way, and that's why Ja went there. Now, you have a team with no star that's in the smallest media market that just had a star walk away and demand a trade because of the fact that it's a small city, small media market, small town capabilities. They can't go bring me help. So yes, you know what? Zion's going to be transcendent. We need to fill that gap that Anthony Davis just left. Let's put Zion over there. Memphis needs a shot in the arm because the grindhouse days are done. Zebo and Tony Allen and them are gone. All right, let's give them a shot in the arm. Let's put Ja there. Now, shot in the arm could be figuratively now, but in regards to what they were thinking years ago, that was the mindset. Again, just my opinion. Scrub zero. The absence of evidence isn't the evidence of abstinence. Go ahead, talk that shit. You already know. You already know the vibes. You already know the vibes. That's a classic. NBA nothing but actors. I mean, I don't think it's scripted. I'm not going with the script narrative. Script zero. Knicks are known for shooting themselves in the foot. They do it. I mean, dog. Let's look at the Knicks draft. I was gonna do it, and I still might do it. I'm probably gonna do it this summer after I take a break. If you go through the Knicks like draft history, it is appalling what they have done. Where is it? Draft. Here we go. We could start with Obi Toppin, right? This year was the year they could have, was this the Halliburton year? They could have had Halliburton, right? They could have had Halliburton that year. Stop. Yeah, they took Obi Toppin when they could have had Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, shit, you could even make a case for a Vessel. Cole Anthony, not so much, but they could have had Tyrese Halliburton, and he was there available for them at 8. They didn't do it, right? Let's go 2019. Knicks took RJ Barrett. In my opinion, I mean, clearly they could have had Rui. They could have had Darius Garland. I still feel Cam Reddish is probably one of the more talented players in this draft. He just hasn't been given the opportunity to really be able to cook. Tyler Hero. Like, there's a lot of guys the Knicks could have took instead of RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett, to me, is never going to be a guy that was worthy of being the number 3 overall pick, but it is what it is. You want to give that a pass for the Knicks? Fine. 2018. They took Kevin Knox, where not only was Mikal Bridges there, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was there, and Michael Porter Jr. was there. That's horrible. It's horrible. Kevin Knox damn near out the league. You want to keep going? We can keep going. Well, it's 2017. Took Frank Ntilikina. Now, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo. Can make a case for John Collins if you want. Malik Monk, you can make a case for. Like, there was guys. But he took Frank Ntilikina. So that's 4 drafts already. So even with the Knicks not being handed number 1 overall picks, there were chances where if they had any sensibility, they could have improved their roster with notable players. And they have tricked it off every single time. So the Knicks don't need to be gifted the number 1 overall pick. If they would just hit on the picks that they've landed through their own merit, they'll be in a much better position. They wouldn't have had to have give Jalen Brunson $100 million because they would have already had Donovan Mitchell. They would have already had a point guard in Tyrese Halliburton. They would have already had a dynamic wing in Michael Porter Jr. Just hit on your picks. And you wouldn't be in position to where you have to give the world to Jalen Brunson and have him be your number one guy. When truth be told, and I hope this is a safe space, Jalen Brunson is a default number one. He is not a league-wide number one. But that's what I'm saying, bruh. Like, but anyway, we were locked in on these Lakers. It appears to be over. Or is it? The return of Mo Bamba, Sheck West pulling up. Sheck West pulling up. Is Sheck West pull up and Mo Bamba is hooping tonight? Scary hours for the Nuggets? Oh, man. I think this is a missed opportunity because I really think Mo Bamba could have gave them something. It's unfortunate that, it's potentially or likely the last game of the year. And here we go with Mo Bamba coming out. I think Mo Bamba was just starting to come into his own in figuring out what his role was going to be. Like, he would have been guarding Jokic. And then you would have had Rui, Mo Bamba, and AD at times. Mo Bamba wasn't going to start this series, but just in the sense of being another body with some height, with some length. Now, he could get bully ball by Jokic, but in terms of length, he could block some of them shots, alter some of them shots, be a weak side defender on some of them shots. Scrub Zero, you ain't buying it? You ain't buying it, man? I was trying to sell it. You ain't trying to sell it? Sheck West, come out tonight, bruh. Come on, man. It could change. You never know. Hey, Joe Mazzulla figured out, the Sixers when he put in Time Lord. He said, oh, I got Time Lord healthy. Oh, I'm going to just play Time Lord. You telling me Darvin Ham didn't realize, oh, shit, I got Mo Bamba. You know who I could get to stop the two-time MVP who's been cooking with relative ease? Mo Bamba. You ain't rolling Scrub Zero? I thought maybe I could get that off. I guess not. All right, let's see what else we got. Do I want to save this for tomorrow? You know what? We'll keep it rolling. Let's see if we can hit. We're almost at 145. All right. Let's see. 2 quick stories, and then we'll wrap up. One more Laker-related one, and then a potential trade that came tumbling down the timeline. All right. Speaking of Lakers would have to lose Rui Hachimura in order to sign Kyrie Irving. Guess what that means? Sorry, Kyrie, your ass gonna stay in Dallas. Okay? We don't want none of that. If we gotta lose Rui and all the progress he's made just to spin the block on the Kyrie thing, we good. I'm good, love. Enjoy. It's good, Zero. Man, we should be celebrating with Nuggets and fries tonight. I think that will be happening with or without us, but it's facts though. The fact that Kyrie still thinks the Laker thing is a possibility, like wasn't there some reporting done that, the Mavericks thing was kind of a handshake deal? Let me see if I can find that. Wait, what's this? We know Ime Udoka's true value of coaching Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I don't know what that means. Zach Lowe thinks there's an argument to be made that the Heat are playing better without Tyler Hero. That's useless. We talked about that. Austin Reeves is making the rounds. Oh, yeah, Malcolm Brogdon, we still believe we are the better team. Come on, bro. I don't think he will come back. I think they'll move on and get a bigger coach. The blue check boy himself, Bill Simmons on Joe Mazzulla. LeBron stuff. Where was that thing with Kyrie? There's that thing with Kyrie. when Hurts. I can no longer say that I don't think it's possible that the Celtics would make a change at head coach, of course, because he's been so sus. Jaylen Brown's numbers in the conference finals, horrible, 37.7%, 10% from three, 50% from free throw, 39.8, so 40% true shooting. He's a minus 46. Yeah, bad. Where is it? I thought I saw something on Kyrie. All the Melo stuff that people are, having revisionist history about. Oladipo. Damn. All right, well, let me just get to that trade. And I thought I saw something about Kyrie and the money. Anyway, so here's a proposed trade, and we'll probably go out on this. Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns. I will ask y'all this. Why the hell would the Suns do this trade? But if you just want to get rid of DeAndre Ayton because you realize he ain't it, then I guess this is a respectable haul. But the Mavericks would receive DeAndre Ayton. The Suns would receive JaVale McGee, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and the number 10 overall pick. Do y'all think that is enough for the former number 1 overall pick? DeAndre Ayton for JaVale McGee, THJ, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and the number 10 overall pick. I think that might be on the borderline of not being enough. Because the best player in this deal is whoever you take at 10. So, I mean, unless you find a gem at 10, I don't know why you're making this deal. Like, this is an addition by subtraction type trade. Let me go to the Scrub Zero. Is it really Kyrie thinking about going to the Lakers, or is it just someone trying to draw up some drama this offseason? It could be both. It could be both things. I think there's definitely some angles where for Kyrie to be able to leverage coming back, it would be good if he had multiple suitors. But, oh, man, I don't. All right, let me see if I can find it, man, because there was definitely a tweet. Somebody reported, unless they deleted it, Kyrie handshake. Oh, yeah, here we go. Boom. Kyrie Irving, the Mavericks reportedly had a handshake deal estimated around $200 million prior to Brooklyn sending him to Dallas. So, again, if you want to believe this, which is in the same report as this trade, with this Suns Mavericks trade, by the way. So, additional reporting by Eric Pincus. Kyrie Irving, the Mavericks reportedly had a handshake deal. So, if they had a handshake deal, then what is this Lakers stuff still floating around for? Sure, you can go back on a handshake deal, but if you had a handshake deal in place, then what is the deal with all this stuff about the Lake Show and you got to give up Rui and all this stuff? Because it really doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you're going to, now if you're telling me your big three is a Maverick big three of Luka, Kyrie, and DeAndre Ayton, how much better are they than last year? Clearly, the Mavericks do not have a big. So clearly, it's an upgrade of sorts. Is it a huge upgrade? I'm not sure, because I'll tell you this. Ayton will be able to eat off of the pick and roll game with Kyrie and or Luka Doncic. But outside of that, I don't see him developing more. I think DeAndre Ayton is a finished product. I think he's going to be a guy that gives you in the teens in scoring and will be a low, 7 to 9 rebound a game guy. Maybe he could touch double digits because Kyrie and Luka's going to be putting up hella shots. So maybe that'll give him more boards to chase after. But just in the sense of a scoring ability, just in the sense of can he get better, I don't think DeAndre Ayton has much better to get. I don't think there's another level he can reach. But I do think a potential 2-man or a 3-man game with Kyrie and Luka, with Ayton, who, if we know one thing he could do, he can rim run. Because he had that with the point fraud. So the fact that he could be a rim runner, putting him with 2 guys who he can individually rim run with on the floor at the same time, that could be pretty interesting because he could set a screen on either side and rim run. It's not him just waiting for the point fraud on one side and getting that going. It's, this time down it could be Kyrie, and I can set the screen and roll for him. Or I could go over to Luka and do the same. Or you can stagger it. You can have a double screen set up with Ayton and Luka, and Kyrie could come up both of those. And now I got a pick and pop with Luka, and then I got DeAndre Ayton rim running. If I can sit here on a live stream and figure that out and draw that up with just my brain freestyling, hopefully J Kidd is thinking the same thing. Scrub Zero, I still don't see Ayton fixing the Mavs' defensive woes with that proposed trade. Yeah, they need a wing. They need a wing that could play defense. And unfortunately, all they have left, what they still got left, is Reggie Bullock, right? They got Reggie Bullock left because they traded Finney-Smith in the Kyrie deal. They need another 3-and-D guy for sure. And if you're losing THJ, as much as he was an enigma at time, he was a respectable shooter and an effort guy, a capable defender, you know. So you will lose that. So you would need a guy to replace him. I'm assuming you feel you can get that in free agency, or maybe you feel Kyrie could supplant that loss with all the things that he could do. But I think you would need more shooters. The Mavericks, to me, and subscribe to my guy Mavs Main on YouTube. He does some really good content around the Mavs. Mostly YouTube shorts, but he's a good dude. I would like to see his perspective on this, but I don't know if the Mavs. I think they do. I would do this deal if I'm the Mavericks. However, I would really need to question who am I targeting? Who else am I targeting in the offseason? Because you're losing some depth. You're plugging a hole at the 5. You're bringing back Kyrie at damn near a max bag. So you're showing Luka, we want you to stay. However, at some point, you're bringing in Ayton's contract, you're giving Kyrie a bag, and then you're going to have to give the bag of all bags to Luka. Where else are you getting the money from to help supplant this roster? Having that 10th overall pick could have went far if you could have the scouting to be able to do that, to be able to fill some of those holes. But to get Ayton, you got to give up the 10th pick. I don't know. It's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. But if I'm Dallas, I make the move. In Phoenix, I don't know if that's the best I want to get for DeAndre Ayton. If that's the best I could do, is the 10th pick. I mean, why aren't the Suns, and I know they're probably in the same division, right? I would say, why aren't the Suns trying to go after the 3rd pick? You don't think the Blazers would want Ayton? Maybe they're done with, the whole Nurkic thing. Isn't he? I don't know if he's a free agent. Well, I'll look that up and I'll holler at y'all tomorrow about that. But we're heading up close to 2 hours. I gotta shake and make a move. So I will bid y'all adieu on that note. But thank y'all for pulling up. I appreciate it. Apparently we crossed over 400 subscribers, so that is pretty dope. And make sure sometimes people subscribe and then they bounce. No, we're still at 400. That's pretty cool. All right, so I appreciate y'all for pulling up. I appreciate y'all for always tapping in. If you missed any of the replay, you can scroll back, or you can catch on the live tab of this YouTube channel. We're building the channel. We just crossed the milestone at 400. We were literally just at 60 a few months ago when I really was trying to figure out what the hell to do with this channel. So thank you all to whoever's pulled up, whether you've even dropped a dislike or whatever. It's all good as long as you engage with the content, and it lets me know what's working and what's not working. And I'm continuously trying to figure out what does work, what stuff I can provide y'all in terms of entertainment, content, topic ideas, so on and so forth. So I appreciate y'all always pulling up. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the subscribers. I appreciate the comments, those that aren't, slanderous and nefarious. But either way, I appreciate y'all, and I will be here tomorrow for another edition of Timeline T. I'm your guy, D. Sam D. Salute.